thanks for joining Holistic Healing Towns. And I am here with Cassandra Brausen, and she is with Earthly Essence. So she has a lot of other services. I did the shamanic healing, and so today we're going to focus on that. But before we jump into that, will you tell me what other services do you have?
I also do chakra alignments. So it's just working with energy within your chakra system, removing any stuck energy, any blockages that you might be experiencing, and then just kind of filling your energy, getting it in alignment, things like that. And then I also do teach yoga classes one-on-one. I do my shamanic healings, and then I also host a women's yoga and wellness retreat. And I teach shamanic classes if people are interested in doing this kind of work themselves too.
And you also help people find their spirit animal, right?
Yes. So that's the first class in the shamanic training program.
Okay. And how often do you do the retreats?
The retreat's once a year. It's every fall, September 5th through the 7th this year. Kind of like to keep it that first week after school starts for most families. And it's focused on women and empowerment. And we do it after school starts. Just seems like moms are super busy, during the summertime with the kids, and then they go off to school. So it's just a nice transition to really focus on themselves and give themselves a little bit of love.
Yes, so many services that are necessary. I love it. Okay, so we're going to jump into the shamanic healing part, and I want to know how did your shamanic healing journey begin?
So, I guess it started as a kid, like just really feeling connected to nature and animals. I was always called to crystals and things like that too, and so I would always, look for agates, or when we went to gift shops, I would always get the little bag of rocks. And then as I got older, it just kind of slowly, things just started drawing my attention. The chakras were the first thing that was really calling to me. So I really got into that and using essential oils and doing the raindrop therapy. So that was at the end of that process, you do drop oils on the chakra system. And as I was doing that, I really started to intuit messages from my power animal about things that the client was struggling with. And so I started doing that work kind of on my own, just being guided by spirit. And then I decided to go back to my teacher, my shamanic teacher, and took her training. And through that training, I realized what I was doing was part of shamanic healing work. So it's just kind of something that I've always been guided towards. Yeah.
And how would you describe the shamanism to someone unfamiliar with it?
Shamanism?
Yeah, shamanism.
Yeah, that's okay. So I guess I would really, the basic understanding that I have is it's really just this way of finding balance and harmony with all living things, connecting with the earth, with animals, with spirit, having this like high regard and high reverence to nature and all that it has to offer us.
I love that. What kind of issues or concerns do people typically come to you for?
I would say most of the time, clients that I work with, it's for more emotional things. Typically, they're feeling maybe lost or stuck in their lives, and they just might not know, what's blocking them from moving on from something that maybe they had been struggling with. They might experience some kind of event that caused trauma, and they're looking to work through that. And then, there are sometimes clients that I get that it's for, could be for some kind of illness or ailment that they might be suffering from too.
Like an injury or past injury that they can heal?
Yeah. Yeah, and from a shamanic perspective, oftentimes like pain and disease are seen as symptoms of something greater that's underlying an underlying issue, which could be caused by emotions. It could be caused by an imbalance in their life. Maybe it's the food they're eating, or something in their environment that's causing this to build up and become an issue. So it's a disharmony in some area of their life that they're experiencing.
What do you believe is the root cause of illness or imbalance from, so that would be what you were just discussing of like the imbalance of potentially food or,
Yeah.
okay, anything else you want to share about that?
It's also, I think, from the shamanic point of view, it's very different from our Western idea of health and wellness. Western medicine is really focuses on, like what can we do to cure this illness, and they focus highly on symptoms and treating symptoms and things like that, where shamanic work is like holistic in its approach and it focuses on the whole being, asking questions about, how's their sleep, what's in, like, what are they eating, are they having a balanced diet, are they getting outside enough, what are their relationships like in their life that could be creating some of the struggles that they're being faced with. So it very much looks at a broader perspective and then focuses more on the root causes of why they're having these different symptoms come up.
You mentioned if they're outside enough. Tell me more about that. What is the benefits of being outside? I know it, but I want to hear it from the shamanic perspective.
So, I mean, just being grounded generally and connecting your body and nervous system to our earth is healing all by itself. In a shamanic perspective, you actually take energy and move it to the earth, and the earth cleanses it. So if you go outside and your nervous system might be dysregulated or you're feeling a little off or upset, you go outside and you stand in the grass or sit down somewhere in nature, and it will actually draw out any of these intrusive energies that you might be dealing with and cleanse them for you. So it's just, it's beautiful in that way. And then when you're out in nature too, it's also filling you with this beautiful environment, full of just like medicine, the plants, the trees, the wind, the sun, it all gives us nutrients and energy that we need to feel good and to heal. So yeah, outside is just a really powerful place for a lot of people, and even just taking like a 10-minute walk can really change your entire mindset. So yeah, nature's a good place to be.
Do you have any suggestion for people for us in the winter? Like some of us don't want to be outside in the blizzard. Like not necessarily a blizzard, but can we replicate that somehow in our house in winter?
Yeah. So I have lots of plants. I bring lots of plants inside. In my home, I also have animals. Pets are great for medicine. Like I said, animals are highly regarded in shamanic work. And then the foods you eat, those are plants, and growing your own herbs, you can do that in your home, even in the winter time, so you feel that connection still with nature. And then still going outside, even when it's cold, I think is really important. Start a fire or something and just sit out there for a little while.
And it's empowering to be outside.
It is. And it tests us,
It does,
it really does. It makes us look at things we might not normally look at in ourselves and have to face some of those elements that we hide from in our cozy little homes.
Yeah, exactly. How do you create a safe and grounded space for clients during their spiritual work?
So like when I'm doing a healing session?
Yeah.
So I guess I start once they're there and we're going to do the session together. I typically start by creating ceremony, and the basics for that is really just to create a sacred space for that person to open up and have the work done. And it's one of the most important parts of the session is to create that safe space for them. So I typically bring in different tools that I might need to use on the client during their session, different objects, crystals, things like that, that are like tools of mine that they're called power tools that I use to help protect the space. I also bring in different herbs and plants that I use to cleanse and clear the energy before a session, just to really create that safe space and a container for healing. So, you know, that that client, when they're opening up themselves, can really feel comfortable and safe, and not have to worry about anything coming in and potentially getting a read that maybe not be accurate in their energy because it's coming from outside of the space. So that protection and that barrier and creating that ceremony is really a big part of the start of a healing session.
And I really appreciated that you explained to me, like you sat down and you walked me through like what was going to happen and like asked for my perspective on a couple of things, like do I prefer this, do I prefer that. I thought that was very good in making me feel comfortable for sure.
Yeah.
And the thing, I missed this, but clients are supposed to bring something in with them.
Yes. Yeah.
Talk about that.
So part of creating a ceremony is putting together an altered space, which is where I put all the tools and the things, the items that we might be using for the healing. It's completely guided by my power animal. Before a client comes, I ask what is necessary for the ceremony, and then I'm given different, just different like recommendations, I guess, on what things that I might need. Sometimes I'm sent on little wild goose chases of different objects that they're like, you need this specific thing for this session. I don't always know where I'm going to find it, but it somehow it finds its way to me. So it's just very, very intuitive, very divinely guided by spirit.
Do you set boundaries or guidelines for what is appropriate in session?
Yes. So we didn't do the consultation prior. You just kind of did it all at the same time, which was fine for you just experiencing it that way. But typically when I meet with a client for shamanic healing, I meet with them like a week before their session for an hour, and it can be over a Zoom.
I am here with Cassandra.
Zoom too. Doesn't have to be in person. I know everybody's so busy, so try to be flexible with that kind of thing. But I meet with clients for like an hour prior to their session, and we just kind of talk about things like, do they have any medical issues? Are they on medication? Anything that might be contraindication with the service that I provide, just to really make sure that we're keeping people safe, and that they're feeling good about it too. And then we just kind of talk a little bit about why they're feeling that they might need something like this. And then I go over things like if they're okay with touch, during the session, or if they're okay with wearing that pillow. You just never know, someone might have certain trigger about something like that. So I just kind of, build that rapport with the client before. I like to meet them in person, so I'll be like, ask if they want to go for coffee or something, just because I think that relationship is a big part of shamanic work. So building that relationship with the client so they do feel safe and they do feel open and comfortable when they come for their session. That's like really important for me.
So you kind of already started to walk us through the typical shamanic healing session, about the tools and rituals that you do. Do you want to add anything more about that part of the ritual?
Oh yeah, so I'd start, putting the altar together, and then the client brings their altar item, which is like a sacred object to them. It can be something very meaningful. It could just be a bracelet that they wear every day. Anything that they want to bring to charge with the energy from the session. And it also serves after as a reminder of the work that they are doing and what they're focusing on healing in their lives. So it's just like a little talisman for them to take with them after the session. And so once we create this altar and I do the ceremony, then the client just lays on the table, just like a typical healing Reiki session, something like that. really, I never know until I start what service or part of the healing that they might need. So shamanic healing includes many different services in one session. Um, so there's extraction work, which is like removing intrusive energy or stuck energy in your energy anatomy, and then filling it up with, an intention that you would set prior. And then there's also soul retrieval work, which is where, through trauma in our lives, sometimes we will leave a part of our soul behind so that we don't have to carry that pain with us. Sometimes we can't survive if we carry that, so we leave it somewhere. And now in modern times, they call that disassociating. So in soul retrieval work, the shaman will retrieve the lost part of the soul piece and bring it back and put it back into the client's whole being. So that's another part that could happen. And then you could also retrieve their power animal if that's something that they were interested in doing during the consultation. That's one of the questions is, would you like to know your power animal or ask for a power animal to come forth at this time, with any messages or anything for you. And then there's also, some psychopomp work, where there might be past loved ones that want to come in and give messages or comforts or things like that to the client while they're with you. Or even their ancestors might have something that they want to share or guidance that they want to provide. So when I first start, I'm just like, hey, I call my power animal in and I just ask them, what does this client need today? Like what healing needs to come through for them? And they tell me, and then they do everything. I'm just like a hollow bone that serves as a conduit of sorts to work through me. So that's pretty much how a session goes. Depending what they need, I might do all of the things. I might only focus on one thing. Sometimes I'm called to use crystals, drumming, rattling. I have other tools for the extraction work that I do. I use essential oils as well in my practice. Not everybody does. And that's something about shamanism too, is everyone who practices it in a different way. It's a very individualized practice, so how I do it is guided by my spirit guide, and how someone else might be taught by theirs is very different. So it just really depends on, the group that you're being taught within, your indigenous ancestors and their practices, things like that. So yeah.
And how do you handle emotional or psychological release that may arise during healing work?
So yeah, at the end, after I, do all the things that Spirit's guiding, then I go over what came up during this session with the client afterwards. And we're still in that sacred container. And I just open the space up and I just allow for them to tell me what they felt, anything that they saw, any like releases that might have happened during the session. And then I, tell them about what I had come through and the different tools that I might have used. And then we just talk. They just kind of share and I get a lot of guidance as well for them. So it's like if you, experienced a soul retrieval, for example, then there's the guidance is after that work, it's very important that that person honored that soul part that chose to come back to them. And so we talk about what they could do and how they could honor that part of themselves so that it stays and it doesn't feel like it's being abandoned again. Because there can be a lot of fear with the soul piece and it not feeling safe to be with that person again because they left it behind. So yeah, and every session is so unique. So it's hard to say a specific way that it might flow, but typically that's how it goes.
And what advice would you give someone interested in exploring shamanic healing, either as a client or a practitioner?
Okay, so I'll start with the client. If you're interested, just, I think you'll share my information on the section below the video. So yeah, I mean, you can reach out to me, we can sit down, we can have a phone call, and we can just talk more about, what you're experiencing, what you might want to know more about, anything like that. I also have lots of different book recommendations. Um, yeah, there's a lot of information out there, too, so yeah.
So if anybody's interested, they just need to reach out.
Yeah.
And then you can help with any questions that they have and make them feel comfortable to follow through if that's what they decide to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I might not be the healer for you, so if you're feeling like maybe we don't have the right connection, or it's just not, I'm just not your person. I have other students that are now practitioners in town that I can recommend you to, as well as my teachers and other peers of mine that took training with me. So lots of options. And then as a practitioner, I typically have been teaching classes out of Mystic Moth downtown for the intro to core shamanism class. And that class, I have one coming up in August on the 20th, and then another one in September, I believe, the 24th. There's a few spots left in the August one, and the September one, I haven't announced that one out as an event yet, so it's still completely open. So yeah, it's $50. It's a 4-hour training. You get to learn all about shamanism, kind of the roots and different things like that, and then you get to go on journey and meet your power animal. And then I always like to reassure clients if they are interested in doing the intro class and meeting their power animal. If for some reason you're blocked and you're not able to connect that day, or you're just having an off day, if you're not able to journey to meet your power animal, I do stand behind my work. So if you don't feel like you were able to connect that day, I will meet with you again and again until you are able to meet your power animal. Everybody can do it. Everybody has one. And so, yeah, and I don't charge again. I just, you pay to meet your power animal, so I want to make sure that you do.
You're going to meet that part.
Yeah, you're going to get up. Happening.
Okay, awesome. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about that would be important for anybody listening to this video to know?
Yeah, I think there's one piece that I did kind of, we kind of jumped right in that I do want to mention, and that's really the understanding of what, shamanism is not a religious practice, and it's not just simply Native American either. It's indigenous, and so what that means is all of our ancestors in different groups all around the world have practiced some form of shamanic work. And the work that I teach is called core shamanism, which is kind of a foundation or a basic knowledge of shamanism. So you can learn that and then branch out into different groups to learn more specialized or specific types of shamanic healing work.
Whatever they're calling it.
Yeah, whatever you're calling it.
Well, thank you so much for all this information.
Thank you.
And for healing me.
Yeah.
I love that experience. That was pretty cool.
Thank you. I enjoyed it as well.
So one thing that you were telling me about when I was at the end of my session was a little bit of your plant medicines. Do you want to add any of that to your video here?
Yeah. So I recently got certified as a microdose facilitator. So I am beginning to work with clients, helping guide them in microdose sessions where they can work with me to understand the medicine. Typically I use mushrooms, and they can learn about, harm reduction to make sure that they're using it safely and they're taking the appropriate amounts. And then through that process, I also offer facilitation where I help them work through the integration of the medicine and any of the things that are coming up in their experience throughout that process. It's typically a month long. 5 sessions is what I like to do with a client, being that it takes that long to create neuroplasticity in the brain and create lasting change. You want to continue utilizing the medicine and practicing integration work throughout that time. It does go alongside the shamanic work that I do. So some clients, that might have work done feel like they need more support in that healing process. So then they will also do the microdose experience as well. And then I'm also working on creating more ceremonial practices with the medicine as well, and doing more of um, a large ceremony with the medicine. Also using the shamanic practices.
And we also talked about this before, but it's not about getting high, it's about using it in a medicinal way.
Yes. So a microdose is so small, like 5 to 10% of a standard dose. So a standard dose is not like a really big dose where you're still gonna not, you're gonna not be able to function properly, but it's such a small percent of the dose that you're taking, and you don't feel anything from it. Like the sweet spot, you don't even notice that you took it. You forget. It's like taking your vitamins. You take it, and then you're like, later you might have like this realization. You're like, oh yeah, I took my microdose today, and it's like this aha moment in a sense. But you don't really have much for like effects. I guess the most that you might feel is more uplifted, maybe less anxious, more present, those types of feelings. So all the things that most of us probably need. I know I do.
Yeah,